At last, the World Cup is over. Argentina crowned the victors. Messi crowned the greatest of all time. And it was an incredible final. From a Chelsea perspective, there were a lot of players that represented their nations throughout the tournament that have now returned to training, barring Mateo Kovacic and Hakim Ziyech, who had stellar tournaments. Hakim Ziyech was immense for Morocco. Mateo Kovacic, puts in those performances quite often in the Chelsea shirt, and I feel like a lot of viewers around the world finally were able to see what Kovacic does week in, week out for Chelsea, and just how important he is of a player. And it's a shame that he won't be, put straight back into that Chelsea team for our upcoming game against Bournemouth, but he's earned a break, as has Ziyech. But they were immense. A lot of players were. Gallagher obviously didn't get any game time at all. Mason Mount probably didn't play as many minutes as he would have liked, but what he did play, I thought he was impressive. Koulibaly, I thought, was decent. Some good games for Senegal there. He managed to score as well. Edouard Mendy probably didn't have the best tournament. I know he sort of let in a few easy goals against the Netherlands that I'm sure he'll regret. But yeah, there was Thiago Silva, immense as usual. It goes with that saying with that man. But yeah, there were a lot of performances from Chelsea players that were pretty solid. And it looks like everyone is back again, barring Ziyech and Kovacic. So, Chelsea look forward. And in this international break, there's been a few developments for Chelsea. First of all, Chelsea, as of yesterday, have appointed a new sporting director, Christopher Vivell, who used to be the RB Leipzig sporting director. Great track record. The man who ushered in the likes of Haaland, Patson Daka, and a host of other, Red Bull players for Salzburg and Leipzig. And this is a position that has been coveted for a while, and it looks like Chelsea have finally got their man. I know there was a few talks about potentially getting the former Liverpool sporting director, and there was another sporting director that we were linked with, but that's finally been sorted, and this is sort of the beginning of the Todd Boehly regime, we could say now. He's got his manager, he's got his sporting director, and I know the aim is to make Chelsea a far more sustainable club, a club that isn't spending silly money, throwing their money around to fix a problem, a club that isn't going to let the likes of Kevin De Bruyne and Mohamed Salah go get sold for a snip for them to become world-class players just a few seasons later. So I think the development that Todd Boehly is trying to usher in at Chelsea is in the right direction. We've definitely been guilty of missing these opportunities in the past, and it looks like that has been identified and an area that we do want to rectify. So that sort of off the pitch structural decision making, that looks to have finally been sorted, and that's encouraging. On the pitch, Chelsea have had a few pre-season games. We've had one against Aston Villa a few weeks back, and then just the other day we had one against Brentford. Now this Aston Villa game pretty much was abysmal. Sort of the outcome of this game, with Armando Broja picking up a horrifying ACL injury that's going to rule him out for the rest of the season, it couldn't have gone any worse. You see the footage, you hear the screams ring out across the stadium, you see him getting stretchered off, and it's just so disheartening to see that. Broja, I've been screaming for Broja to get more minutes. I think Potter was giving him way more game time, with Aubameyang just being so hit and miss and so unpredictable and not running around enough. Broja was giving us that outlet up top that we needed. And I was delighted for him getting his minutes. I was delighted for him scoring that banger against Wolves. But now that's come to an end for this campaign, and I really feel for him. It's a horrible injury, and I hope that it's not something that goes on and affects his career more than it should. Hopefully it is just a bad injury that he does recover from, and I'm wishing him a speedy recovery. I'm a big fan of Broja, and I think he must be gutted, considering this is, I'm sure, something he's been working for throughout his whole career, to represent Chelsea as well, and to get this game time and to have that sort of taken away by such a horrifying injury. It was such a freak injury, the way he just twisted, but they're always, with every concert, they're always the worst ones. It was really tough to watch, but wishing Armando Broja a speedy recovery for sure. Hopefully all goes well with his rehab. The only positive that came from that game was OMARI Hutchinson. Now, I watched him a few months before in an under-21s game, a youth game, and he was so lively. Like, I think this was one of his first games. We got him in the summer from Arsenal. Coveted player, a lot of potential, massive ceiling. And I remember seeing him in one of them games, and I was like, this kid he's the real deal. Like, he's lively, he's agile, he beats people, he's got techers, unbelievable techers. And seeing him in this Villa game, it was more of the same. I was just massively impressed again, and I think everyone was. We were all ranting and raving about him after seeing that performance. So with Armando Broja being sidelined for the rest of the season, Chelsea have had to scramble together and identify a replacement, because we cannot just have Aubameyang leading the line and having no other options. Aubameyang is an ageing striker. As I said, he is hit and miss. He doesn't seem to be, the most reliable player up top. And we've had to identify David Fofana, who apparently Potter has been a long admirer of from his Brighton days. And, this kid is 20 years old, Ivory Coast international, Ivory Coast native. Don't know if he's represented his country yet. And, I've just seen the comp videos like you have as well. I wasn't up to speed on Mold's season so far, or the Norwegian league. I can't say I know too much, but from what I've seen from his comps on YouTube, you can see that there's like an array of finishes he's got in his locker. You can tell that he's a striker that can score in many different ways, and I always value that. Whenever I watch like a video of a striker scoring goals, if it's just the same sort of goals, tap-ins here and there, I don't care that you're scoring loads of goals. It's more the types of goals and the different finishes you've got in your locker, and I can see that Fofana does have that. So that's, huge potential there for him. I'm sure he must be over the moon. There was a video of him recently, and he pretty much said how much he would love to play for Chelsea, how that's like an ambition of his, and that was like 6 months ago, and he's already got the deal. 20 years old, 2 seasons for Mold, and in the Norwegian league, and he's getting brought into Chelsea so early in his career, so he must be pleased, and hopefully he's got that sort of tenacity and excitement in his game that when he does play for Chelsea, 8.6 million, I believe we're rumoured to acquire his services for. It's a snip, obviously. I'm sure there's going to be a transition period for him, but I'm happy with the acquisition, and it was something that we've jumped at clearly as a matter of urgency, and hopefully it's something that pays off. And I feel like we could do with a sort of a diamond in the dirt kind of thing. Like, we need someone who sort of exceeds all expectations, and this could be it. I feel like we're due. We've splashed a lot of money on players recently, and for someone like Fofana, David Fofana, for like 10 mil to be the answer to our issues would be very fitting. Whether that's the case remains to be seen. But we also look like we've secured Christopher Nkunku's services. Unfortunately, it's not going to be until the summer. He's not going to play for Chelsea until next season, which is unfortunate. I thought with the injury to Broja, we might also speed that up. This is a super talented player, super coveted, can play on either side up top. And I think it's a step in the right direction. Hopefully we haven't overpaid for him. I'm always cautious about these players that seem to kill it in the German league, but don't seem to quite do it in the Prem. But looks like a talent, and I think that'll pretty much mean that either Pulisic or Ziyech will be on their way out. I think it will most likely be Ziyech, but remains to be seen. The other Chelsea pre-season game that took place was against Brentford. I believe it was a game of 45 minutes to sort of give enough players game time to get back up to speed for the return of the Premier League. I think it's been reported that Kai Havertz scores a hat-trick. We don't really know much about the game. Pretty much it's safe to consider this game just a training game, nothing to read into. The only two bits of information that I did read into was, once again, bad news and good news. I'll start with the bad news. Wesley Fofana, again, picks up another injury on his return. Looks like he's ruled out for a month. And it's hugely concerning that it's his knee again. I know Todd Bowley sort of vetted this whole signing and made sure that Fofana was seen by some specialist doctors in the US before signing him. But this is another knee injury, and I'm starting to get worried now. Poor guy. Seems like such a nice personality to be around, and very likable character. And I want to see him, in a Chelsea shirt as much as possible. And another injury is a huge setback for him. Hopefully, it's just a freak coincidence again, and it's not something more serious and not an underlying problem. And he is going to need surgery, but it doesn't bode well. Let's be honest. But in terms of getting back to his best, it looks like he's off it again. So it is a bit concerning. But with that bad news comes probably the greatest news, and that is that Reece James completed 60 minutes of football. Reece James is back. He's in contention to start against Bournemouth on the 27th, and this is the best news. Chelsea have not been the best team since Reece James picked up that injury against AC Milan. Everything has spiralled out of control. It's been a downward spiral. Game by game, we looked weaker. We put in, poor performances, and, having someone like Reece James to galvanise you, to sort of know that you've got that solidity at the back, you've got that attacking threat going forward. He sets the tone. He is Chelsea's most important player so far this season by a country mile, and having him back, the fact that the World Cup has taken place and he's been able to recover, he's going to be gutted that he missed the World Cup. I think England, potentially didn't realise what we missed with Reece James' absence, and I think he's going to be chomping at the bit to get back and play football after watching everyone else play in the World Cup. And it's just the biggest positive that has come from this break for me is that Reece James has been adequately given enough time to rehab and prepare and recover from his injury, and he's going to be back, and Chelsea can hopefully start producing better performances now he's back. Hopefully Chilwell is not far behind him, and having James and Chilwell in that starting 11, Chelsea are just a completely different team. So hopefully that is the case for this next few games against Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest, which are must-win games. I'm going to make some preview videos for sure, talking about what we can do on the pitch to make sure that we see them games through and we pick up 3 points in each of those. Guys, let me know what you think of this video. Are you happy that Chelsea are back? I mean, it wasn't really a lot of positivity when we made these last videos surrounding Chelsea. Hopefully the next few will be. Hopefully it was a break that was needed. What do you think is gonna happen from now until the rest of the season? Are Arsenal going to drop the ball? Are they going to carry on? Hopefully Chelsea can put some points up and we can start, chasing that pack a lot closer, because we've fallen way off it. So let's hope, guys. Leave a comment. I'd love to know what you guys think. Like the video if you can, and I'll see you guys in the next one in a bit.